My Poison Bleed Pathfinder melts bosses and clears screens. Check it out. What's up guys? Today I have my Poison Bleed Pathfinder build. This build has incredibly fast movement speed thanks to the row amount and is immune to slows like Temporal Change, Chilled Ground, Maim, and Hindered. We clear everything around us with our poison bloody explosions and we melt boss HP away with ease. I've provided a written guide with a level 1 to Uber in-game variant in the description and a path to building file, so make sure you check those out. I also stream all my build testing live on my Twitch at twitch.tv/fgcorman21, so be sure to swing by and drop a follow. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and break down the mechanics of the build. So my Pathfinder is the ultimate quality of life build, as you don't have to worry about movement speed penalty reduction or slows. We take advantage of the Pathfinder Ascendancy node, Relentless Pursuit, which says your speed is unaffected by slows. This means things like Temporal Chains and Chilled Ground won't slow us down, allowing us to ignore these map mods. We'll then take advantage of the row amount, which is a spirit gem that costs 60 spirit that allows you to shoot projectile attacks off of its back with a 80% reduced movement speed penalty and 15% increased movement speed. This allows you to attack fast while moving, which maximizes our clear speed. For clearing maps, we'll use Poison Burst Arrow, which will create a burst of poison on hit or end of arrow flight. This poison is then spread to enemies within 1.5 meters thanks to the Contagious Contamination Ascendancy node. This is just Herald of Plague without the 30 spirit cost. We're then going to create an almost double Herald interaction by using Herald of Blood, Bursting Plague, Poison 3, and Bleed 3. Herald of Blood will create a bloody explosion when a bleeding enemy dies. We'll bleed these enemies thanks to having Bleed 3 and our Poison Burst Arrow. When that bleeding enemy dies and creates that explosion, it will have a 100% chance to poison thanks to the Poison 3 support gem and passive tree nodes. This poison will then activate Bursting Plague, which will then explode, and whenever it does explode, it will always bleed thanks to the Bleed 3 support gem. This restarts the Herald of Blood proc loop. So to quickly sum it up, the Herald of Blood will activate and explode. This explosion will poison, which will proc Bursting Plague, which will explode and bleed, which will proc Herald of Blood, which will explode and cause poisons, which will then explode again to cause more bleeds, to reproc it, and so on and so forth. So it's a really intricate interaction, but I just wanted to quickly sum it up here. Bossing is handled by using Toxic Growth, Gas Arrow, and Vine Arrow. We'll start by shooting Gas Arrow on the ground, which will create a gas cloud, which will poison anyone and anything within this cloud. We'll drop our Vine Arrow on this cloud so that way it becomes poison and will grapple onto targets within its radius and deal extra damage to anything that it grabs onto. And then lastly, we'll spam Toxic Growth, which creates pustules that will explode when poisoned, dealing massive damage. The last thing I want to explain is the Plague Finger Gauze Wraps. These gloves state that all damage from hits contributes to poison magnitude, which may be a little confusing at first, so let me explain. Poison is a damaging ailment that deals chaos damage over time. The damage that a poison does is calculated by the combined physical and chaos damage of a hit. This means when you hit a target with an attack, it would normally not use any added elemental damage from your gear to influence the poison DPS, only your physical or chaos damage. Plague Fingers allow all damage, including elemental, to contribute to your poison damage per second. This allows added elemental damage to attacks on your gear or on your rings to contribute to poison damage. Without this, if you had a line that said adds lightning or adds cold damage or adds fire damage to attacks, none of this would contribute to your poison magnitude. So these gloves are vital for the build if you don't want to go pure fizz or pure chaos damage. Now that I've explained the mechanics, let's get into the weapon sets, skill gems, and support gems. Alright, so you're on the Pathfinder, so real quick I'm going to go over the weapon sets. So for Poison Burst Arrow, you want it on weapon set 1 only, not 2. And then for Vine Arrow, Toxic Growth, and Gas Arrow, have them only on weapon set 2 and not 1. That is it. You don't have to worry about the rest of these. These can be on both. Just make sure that Poison Burst is on weapon set 1 and these 3 are on weapon set 2. So now let's go and talk about the actual skill gems. So we are using Poison Burst Arrow. It is our main mapping skill. We're going to use Deadly Poison 2 for more poison magnitude. This equals more poison DPS. We're then going to use Projectile Acceleration 3 for the 40% more projectile speed. This is important because we will be using Feathered Fletchling to make increases and reductions to projectile speed applied to damage with bows. This makes increased projectile speed do increased projectile damage. So on our quiver, you can see that on our quiver we have increased projectile speed, so that's 46% increased projectile damage, and then on our tree there's some small nodes and stuff like that. Very big increase. You can see the damage difference with and without it. We then run Nova projectiles to allow our projectiles to fire in a circle around us. And then we run Bursting Plague, as Bursting Plague is going to create a Plague Burst explosion whenever a poison target dies. This will give us some extra AoE clear. And then we run Bleed 3 to allow Poison Burst and Plague Burst to bleed. We want bleeding because we want Herald of Blood to be activating. We're going to run Vine Arrow, as this is a great supportive skill for all poison skills. It is going to latch on to a target and deal chaos damage over time. We're going to run Overabundance for the +1 to skill limit. This is going to allow us to have 2 Vine plants rather than 1. Deadly Poison 2 for more poison magnitude inflicted by the skill. Prolonged Duration 2 to make the Vine Arrow plant last longer. Overreach to allow the actual Vine attachment radius to go up. We want this to be able to latch on the targets, more targets around it. And then Projectile Acceleration 3, same thing, more projectile speed equals more projectile damage. We then have Toxic Growth. This is our main boss damage skill here. We're going to use Long Fuse 2, as it is going to increase the detonation time, but give us 35% more damage. We're not worried about the detonation time, as we can instant detonate it with our gas arrow. So just by spamming it in here, it will instant detonate thanks to the gas arrow. We're going to run Concentrated Area for more area damage. Deadly Poison 2 for increased magnitude of poison inflicted. Rigwald's Ferocity, as we have this on weapon set 2, remember? So this is going to give it 30% more damage. And then Arakali's Lust for 6% more damage with hits for each poison on an enemy, up to 30%. This means the poison target will take 30% more damage. So we apply 6 poisons at one time, so that's 36% more damage, but it's capped at 30%. So 30% more damage from this gem alone. We then run Gas Arrow. This is allowing us to detonate our Toxic Growth instantly. This is vital for making sure you can get as much boss DPS as possible. We're going to run Persistent Ground 3 to make it to where your ground surfaces cannot expire by anything. This means, they can't be destroyed except by expiring. This means that it can't be ignited. It won't blow up your gas cloud. We don't want our gas cloud exploding because we want it to continue to poison our toxic growths. So this is going to make it guaranteed to last to the end of the duration. We're on Encroaching Ground. This will make it gain increased area of effect up to 100% as it persists. You'll notice the cloud is going to spread out. We're going to run Deadly Poison 2 for more poison magnitude inflicted by the skill. Projectile Acceleration 3 for more projectile speed, which equals more projectile damage. And then Prolonged Duration 2 for more skill effect duration to make the cloud last longer. For our Spirit Gems, we are going to run Wind Dancer, as Wind Dancer is going to give us more evasion rating, and we're also going to be using it in an offensive way. So Wind Dancer, whenever you get hit, has Gale Force. Gale Force is technically a melee or a martial weapon hit. This will allow it to do things such as bleed, poison, and Bursting Plague. So we're going to run Bleed to allow this to bleed, which will proc Herald of Blood. Bursting Plague to allow this to bleed, which will proc Herald of Blood. Deadly Poison to allow this to poison, which will proc Bursting Plague. Same thing, Poison 3 for chance to poison, and then Magnified Area 2 to give this increased area of effect. We're going to run the Row Amount. The Row Amount is so that we can have the faster movement speed and reduced movement speed penalty. On Roa, in this order, you need to insert these skill gems, these support gems. So you're going to run Loyalty for 10% of damage taken from the minion before you. Minion Mastery for +1 level, and then I'm running Brutus Brain. This will make it to where your minion cannot be damaged, but it can't deal any damage itself. If you were to put on Brutus Brain first, it would not allow you to put on Loyalty. So you need to make sure that you do these in this order, so that way you can have the Loyalty gem active. We then run Herald of Blood, and this Herald of Blood needs to be a lower level Herald of Blood. Mine is right now is 13, and that is due to the strength requirements. If you have enough strength, run a higher level version of it. If you don't have enough strength, run a lower level version of it. We're going to run Poison 3 to allow the bleeds from this to poison. Bursting Plague to allow this to proc and poison. Bleed 3 to allow Plague Burst to poison. To allow Plague Burst to bleed. Bleed 3 for Plague Burst to bleed. Deadly Poison 2 for increased magnitude of poison inflicted by skills, and then Overreach for increased area of effect. So this explosion, pretty much Herald of Blood will go off. Herald of Blood will poison thanks to Poison 3. It currently has a 100% chance to poison. So every single time this goes off, it will poison. This poison will activate Plague Burst, which will go off and have a 100% chance to bleed, which will then proc Herald of Blood. This is what chains everything together. And then we have Ghost Dance. Ghost Dance is going to be recovering a portion of our evasion as energy shield. So 7% of our EV is gained as ES whenever we do get hits. That equates to 1800 for me right now. So whenever I get hit, I will recover 1800 ES. And then you run compressed duration, as this will decrease the time it takes for you to gain a Ghost Shroud. Typically, without this, it would take me 3.46 seconds. This makes it take 2.25 seconds to gain a Ghost Shroud. And then lastly, if you want to, you can run Despair. Despair is going to lower the chaos res of a target. I only use this on bosses particularly. And the big thing is you can't use it while on the Roa. Whenever you're off of the Roa, you can use it, but you can't use it while on the Roa. So if you're in a boss fight, you have to get off, proc it, and then go from there. So this is just purely if you want to use it. I'm running Chaos Mastery, as you do need this to be lower level. It can't be any lower than level 18 overall, because if not, it won't affect targets at a certain level. We see how it says chaos curses do not apply to enemies above level 78. You need to have a level 18 curse to apply to level 80, 81, 79, 80, 81, 82 targets. So your pinnacle bosses, your high level mapping, you need to have at least a level 18 curse. I run Heightened Curse for more magnitude, Curse Ground to allow it to apply on the ground, so that way anything within this circle on the ground is going to be cursed. So as long as it's standing in here, it will be cursed. Ritualistic Curse for more area of effect, and then Efficiency 2 for less cost, so that way you're not wasting all your mana whenever you do use this curse. And yeah, that is it for the skill gems and support gems, so now I'll go ahead and go over the gear. Alright, so let's talk about the gear. So on your bow, you are going to want a bow with as much damage as possible. It does not matter what type of damage, just as much damage as possible. I've gone with a Obliterator bow because this bow base has some of the highest damage in the game. It does have reduced projectile range, but this does not really affect us. You'll notice that my arrows, they explode at the edge of my screen. If I did not have this, it would go a little bit past my screen. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion. Other good bow bases are dual stringed for the extra projectiles, but that does have a lower overall damage. Same thing for like a Warmonger bow. It's also a really high base fizz, or just a really high base damage bow type, but find one that fits your needs. So like I said, as much added damage, increased damage that you can get, doesn't matter what type. Critical hit chance, as we want a lot of critical hit chance. Mine is rolled to 5.42 because it is sanctified. And then level of attack or level of projectile skills, and I've elected to go for the onslaught one for extra skill speed and move speed. You could go crit damage bonus, you could go attack speed, whatever you can. But to quickly summarize on the bow, as much damage as possible, as much crit chance as possible, level of skills, things like that. I've socketed it with the bow attacks fire an additional arrow, as this is going to allow my Nova projectiles to shoot more arrows rather than just shooting 5, it shoots 7. Ideally, if you can't afford these, you want to go with a Sequel's Rune of the Sky. This is currently around 90 to 100 exalted. They gain 5% of damage as extra damage of all elements. That just gives you 15% extra elemental damage. Ideally, you would have 2 bows eventually, one for bossing, one for mapping. A ideal mapping bow would be a dual string with extra projectiles, and then a bossing bow would be like this right here, but with these runes in there. So take that into consideration eventually. I will have a double weapon set bow eventually. And then for the quiver, I'm going with a Visceral Quiver. A Visceral Quiver is going to have implicit critical hit chance. We want critical hit chance. I'm going for projectile speed because remember, projectile acceleration says that modifiers to speed apply to damage. I've gone with increased damage of bow skills. I've gone for a added damage to attack. It is cold. It does not matter which one it is. It can be fizz, it can be lightning, it can be fire. It does not matter. I then gone for level of projectile skills, attack speed, and critical hit chance. You could also go for maybe a cool desecration or crit damage bonus, kind of whatever you want to need. If you want attributes here, it's a great way to fill out all your attributes as well. For the gloves, we are using the Plague Finger Gauze Wraps, and these are extremely important for getting a ton of damage. On these gloves, you're going to want to get extra sockets. Now, a 1-socket pair of the gloves is like 1x. A 2-socket pair of the gloves corrupted is like 90 to 150x. It kind of varies. And then a 3-socket pair of these gloves is going to cost you anywhere from 70 to 150 div. I bought a uncorrupted double socket myself and corrupted it. It took me 3 tries, so I spent probably I think I bought 1 pair for 10 div and then 2 pairs for 20 div. So I spent 50 div to craft to make these rather than buying them off the market. Your choice. Like I said, you can buy a corrupt pair that are 2-socket for 100 to 150x. But the more sockets, the better, because we do want the increased magnitude of damaging ailments rune. This is going to give you more poison DPS. On the helmets, you're going to want to go with a high ES helmet, and then you're going to want to get whatever res and attributes that you need. For the boots, I have gone with a 3-socket movement speed boot. So of course you're going to want movement speed on your boots at base. I've gone for EVESs. You're going to want to get your res here. You're going to want to get your attributes. And then I have deflection. Deflection's fine. And then I've crafted these to have 100% increased effective socketed items. It's going to give me double the effect of my current runes. So my runes are currently giving me 15% move speed. They're being doubled for 30% move speed, making these 60% movement speed boots. On the body armor, I'm going for a really high EV body armor with a ton of res. The more res, the better. If you need attributes, get them here as well. For the belt, I'm going to be using an Ingenuity belt. Now, you absolutely can use a Headhunter here, but the reason why I've elected to go with a Ingenuity is I do want 150 rarity on my character. So I currently have 155, and the only way I'm accomplishing this is because I have rarity on my rings. So on my Ingenuity, you're going to want as much increased effect as possible, and then you're going to want to have at least 2 charm slots on it. We get +1 from the campaign, so a 2-slot belt becomes a 3-slot belt. And then I've corrupted it with increased maximum energy shield. This is going to give me a higher hit pool. Now, you absolutely can go with more res for the corrupt or more attributes if you need it. Just get whatever you want. On the rings, like I said, I've gone with rarity. So I have 44 rarity on this ring. Otherwise, you're going to want flat damage. Added lightning, added cold, added fizz, added fire. Anything like that is fine. Percents are not ideal. I just had to go with increased fire because I needed a ring that had enough attributes, res, and rarity on it. So that's what you're going to look out for is res, attributes, added damage to attacks, rarity. Same thing for this ring, rarity, res, added damage. On the amulets, I have a rarity amulet. You can go with whatever base you want. You're going to want at least 50 spirit on it. You can get this via a solar amulet, or maybe you get spirit on your body armor. It's kind of your choice. Just get 50 spirit somehow. I have increased evasion. Ideally, I would go with increased ES over it. I then have crit damage bonus, critical hit chance, and increased global defenses. I'm currently anointed with Leeching Toxins. This is going to give me 2% of max life on kill whenever I kill a poisoned enemy. This is going to sustain our life whenever we're mapping. And then the increased magnitude is just going to make our poisons do more damage. And then for the charms are actually really important here. On my charms right now, I'm running a golden charm, specifically the Rite of the Passage golden charm. If you can't afford this, just use a normal golden charm. This Rite of the Passage, when possessed by the spirit of the serpent, is going to give you a 100% chance to poison, 80% increased damage, which is great. This is one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest Rite of the Passage charm you can buy. I think I paid 20 div for this. The cheapest ones are 17 div. I just got one with near max seconds possessed for as long as possible. But like I said, if you can't afford one, feel free to go for a regular golden charm for extra rarity. I'm then running a stone charm. The stone charm is going to prevent you from being stun locked. I've gone for guard on it. You can go for guard, max life, max mana. And I'm running a freeze charm. Same thing. If you get frozen, you'll get knocked off the Roa. So we don't want to be frozen. This will give you guard if you do get frozen, and then whatever else you can net off this. Same thing for the flask. I've just gone for a high recovery flask, high charge. Same thing, increased amount, charge when you're killing an enemy. A instant recovery flask wouldn't be bad, just kind of whatever you want to go with. And yeah, that is it for the gear. So let's go and jump into the skill tree. All right, so you're on the skill tree. So for the ascendancy, your first couple nodes that you're going to want to take, I went with the poison nodes right off the rip. So you're going to grab this contagious contamination node right here. This is going to give you effectively built-in Herald of Plague, so you don't have to waste the spirit on it. And then we're going to go for overwhelming toxicity. This is going to double the amount of poisons on a target. So we go from 3 poisons with our skill tree nodes to 6 poisons for effectively double the poison damage. With your next nodes, you can go with either Relentless Pursuit. This is going to make it to where your speed is unaffected by slows. So that means you can't be slowed by Temporal Change, Chilled Ground, Bame, Hinder. Or you could go with Traveler's Wisdom, which is going to give you 5 extra points, and then the 1 small node for +1, so that's 6 total extra passive points, which is a ton of extra power. I'm going to very quickly explain what nodes I went with and why here on the passive tree. So coming out, you want to definitely get Honed Instincts. I like the attack speed one, so that way I can spam my Poison Burst faster whenever I'm mapping. I go out this way because I, 1, need the attributes, and 2, just didn't have the points to fit this in eventually. I'll then come out this way, and I am putting on weapon set 2, these 2 nodes for increased EV and increased movement speed, and you are going to grab the jewel slot right here. This jewel slot is going to be a From Nothing diamond to where passives and radius of Oasis can be allocated without being connected to your tree. So Oasis is right here, and it allows us to pick any of the nodes within this range. Now, with a regular weapon set point, you're going to pick Catapults. This is going to give you projectile speed. Remember, projectile speed equals projectile damage, and then increased area of effect. I have a small node for defenses and companion life. Trust me on here, just pick this node for increased defenses when a companion is in your presence. We're riding the Roa, so that means we always have increased defenses with this. And then careful consideration for 100% increased EV if you haven't been hit. We're banking on not getting hit a lot, so this is going to give you a big EV increase. And then on weapon set 2, you're going to go with all of these ailment nodes right here. This is going to make your damaging ailments deal damage faster, and then increase the magnitude and duration of them. We're then also going to grab these magnitude of poison nodes. We're going to grab this increased poison duration and skill effect duration node, and then a +1 number of poisons at the same time node right here. We'll then come out this way and grab all of these. Make sure you get this side and not this side. We want magnitude of poison. And then you're going to get crippling toxins for increased magnitude, and then maim on poisoned enemies. We're going to come out this way and grab these EV nodes for EV while on full life. And then we're going to come out this way. I go for subterfuge mask because we get +2 EV per 1 ES on helmet. Since we have a 500 energy shield helmet, we get 1,000 evasion from that. We're going to come out this way, and we are going to grab low tolerance for 60% increased effect of poisons you inflict on targets that are not poisoned. That means your first poison that you inflict on a target is going to deal a ton more damage. Make sure you grab the magnitude and not the chance to poison node. We're then going to come down this way, and we're grabbing these dex nodes because you need the attributes. So grab here. This would be cheaper if you had a ton of dex, but we don't, so you have to go this way. You're going to grab the increased effect from quiver nodes, as you do want your quiver to have increased effect. Same thing for here. I missed calling that out, but increased effect gained from quiver is going to equal a ton more damage, a ton more levels, a ton more crit chance, everything like that. We'll then come out this way for the dex that we desperately need. We're going to grab the EV node, increased dex deflect, EV nodes, EV from equipped body armor, and then we're going to path out this way. We're going to come down here, and we're going to put on our regular points. We're going to come out this way, and we're going to get companions deal increased damage and increased damage while companions in your presence. All of these say the same thing, and the reason why we're getting these nodes is inspiring ally increases in reductions to companion damage also apply to you. So this 12% companion damage node is also 12% for us on top of the 10% off this node. So we're getting 22% for each one of these small nodes, which is massive. And then on weapon set 1, we're going to grab these defense nodes. So that way, whenever we're the companions in our presence, we get increased defenses. So this is 30% more global defenses right here. So that just means that while we're riding Roa, we have 30% increased ESEV. We then come out here and grab these crit nodes. Make sure you get the critical hit chance and not the critical damage bonus node. We want these for the int, the strength, and the +1 to base crit chance. We want to crit as often as possible for more damage, of course. And then you have your second jewel, the Heart of the Well Diamond. Now, on your Heart of the Well Diamond, the main thing to look out for is you want at least one line of any damage. It doesn't have to be chaos or cold. It can be chaos, it can be fire, it can be lightning, it can be cold. Does not matter. It can be any of those. Just one line of extra damage, 2% mana on kill, and if you can afford it, get an extra damage and crit hit chance, or maybe you can do cost efficiency or increased ES or increased EV from equipped body armor. There's a ton of good Heart of the Wells out there, so kind of customize to whatever you need. Then we're going to come up here and get these poison nodes. We want the magnitude of poison nodes and the increased duration for each poison we've inflicted recently. We make ourselves immune to poisons with the toxic tolerance. And then we grab the building toxins for the +1 of poisons. This +1 turns into a +2 since we're being doubled by the ascendancy node. We then path up this way, and we are going to grab these EV-ES nodes. Eventually, when I level up again, I'll get this movement speed one right here. We'll then come out this way to get the crit chance, damage if you dealt a crit chance, attack speed, dex and int, grab these EVS nodes, and then get this movement speed, dex int, mono regen node. Up here, we'll grab the crit damage bonus, critical hit chance, not critical damage bonus, and then we'll grab moment of truth for the hit chance and crit damage bonus. We'll path up here, and we want these mana cost efficiency because things like toxic growth and our gas arrow are expensive, and we don't want to drain all of our mana away. So if you happen to have like a 1000 or like 1200 mana pool, you may not need these nodes, but I need them right now to make sure I don't drain all my mana. I then path this way and grab these attack damage nodes when on full life. And then I have my last jewel, which is a Megalomaniac. And on the Megalomaniac, the one and really important node that you want, and this is currently a 1 div jewel. I've seen it much cheap as like 200 exalt as well. But currently for 1 div, you can get a Feathered Fletchling Megalomaniac. This makes increases and reductions to projectile speed also apply to damage with bows. Alternatively, if you can't find one of these, you can get a Megalomaniac with the Leeching Toxins and just anoint with Feathered Fletchling. Your choice there. Any other good node is going to be one with gain damage. It can be crit chance, it can be gain damage as extra damage, it can be attack speed, it can be attack damage. Does not matter. The other node on this Megalomaniac is just up to you to pick. And then we path up here to get these crit nodes. We want True Strike for dex and crit chance. We want for the Jugular for the int and crit damage bonus. And then just make sure that you pick this top node up here, damage on critical, and not this crit chance node, and then get Deadly Force. So yeah, that is the tree and jewels explained. So let me go ahead and get into a mapping and a bossing demo. All right, so here's our map. We have a juiced up pack size with T16 that has been instilled with Delirium. We have our 3 Waystones, so let's get right into it. All right, so here on our map, what you're going to be doing is, of course, riding on your Roa, and you're just going to walk around and shoot your Poison Burst Arrow. That is it. You're going to walk around and shoot this and just clear the entire screen. Now, Delirium plus all of our explosions do yield a lot of frame drop, of course, because the performance this league is pretty bad, but all you do is walk around and just kind of shoot this and let it blow everything up for you. If you come across a really tough enemy, you can shoot your Toxic Growth at their feet and then, you know, poison it to deal a ton of damage, but literally all you have to do is walk around and hold this skill and it will kill everything. It's pretty brain dead. It's very similar to Lightning Arrow. Just a lot of FPS drop on Delirious maps, so just keep that in mind if maybe your PC doesn't have the specs for it. Maybe don't run Delirious maps, I'd say, but pretty easy, I'd say. Like I said, if you come across a tough enemy, shoot your Toxic Growth at their feet and it'll wipe them out pretty quick. But yeah, that's really the mapping loop. There's not too much to it. You just, like I said, you walk around and you shoot your Poison Burst. So yeah, now that I have explained the mapping, I'll real quick wrap this map up and then I'll show you the boss at the very end. All right, so here are the boss. Now, since this isn't a Pinnacle boss, I don't need to worry about cursing them. We're just going to be shooting our Gas Arrow at their feet, dropping a Vine Arrow, and then just using Toxic Growth. So I'll walk in. We will drop our Gas Arrow, don't get one shot by him, drop our Vine Plant, and then we can just go to town and watch this wipe his HP away. So yeah, that is pretty easy for the map bosses. I will now show you what a Pinnacle boss looks like. All right, so you're at the boss, and what you're gonna do is you are going to shoot your your Gas Cloud on the ground. We're gonna curse, and we are going to Vine Arrow. So I'm gonna shoot my clouds. I'll go to Vine Arrow and curse. And now I can start hitting it with the Toxic Growths, which you can see deal massive DPS. And he's dead. So yeah, real quick, Gas Arrow, Vine Arrow, Curse, and our Burst. Yeah, pretty simple, really easy kill. So yeah, that is it for the Pinnacle boss kill. That's gonna be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys checking this out. Let me know what you thought of the build in the comments. Like I said, be sure to check out the planner in the description. Be sure to check out my Twitch. I will be doing an update to this build eventually, a more min-max build, the second weapon set bow kind of thing, and get my gear kind of fully optimized. This has been a really fun build, and I plan on playing at least for another week. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought. I appreciate it if you made it this far, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Y'all take care.